We're about to live stream.
Mic is on.
All right, Ms. Matias, we are live and we are live streaming. You may proceed.
Good morning. This is the New York City Board of Standards and Appeals review session for January 9th, 2024. Please be reminded there is no public testimony during the review session. You may provide public testimony during the hearing process. For the record, Vice Chair Shibeta and Commissioner Otley Brown are participating virtually. The first item is the zoning calendar, continued hearing items, number 22, 2017-269 BZ, 65 Grasmere Avenue, Staten Island.
Okay. This application was on hold for some time, partly because of the documentations and analysis that was needed for environmental review. I believe that is moving along. A revised statement of fact was provided by the applicant because the board had asked for more clarification, specifically with regards to finding C related to neighborhood character, and the applicant had provided that analysis. I think we still are waiting for all the reviews, secret reviews to be completed. Ms. Benke, do you have any update on it?
No update at this time. They're still pending reviews with DEP air quality.
Okay. That's the only one that's outstanding, air quality. Rest are, we're okay on air noise and hazmat, right?
Yes.
Okay. All right, thank you. Vice Chair Shibeta?
Nothing from me on this application. Thank you.
Commissioner Otley Brown?
I have no comments.
Okay. Commissioner Shetta?
Thank you, Chair. I have nothing further to add.
Okay. Commissioner Yoon?
Thank you. I have nothing further.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Item number 23, 2023-04 BZ and 20207 BZ, 2170 McDonald Avenue, Brooklyn. And number 24, 2023-05 BZ, 321 Avenue T, Brooklyn.
Okay, at the last hearing of October 31st, the board had asked for more clarification regarding the mode of travel and structural consideration, and more clarity on the operational plan. They, especially with relation to the existing school and the existing schools along McDonald Avenue, which is run by the same operation entity. The applicant has provided its response to the comments with regards to the operational plan. I thought it was very helpful in terms of the clarification that's been provided in terms of the operation that is run by the operational plan for the school at 2130 McDonald and comparing that to 2170 McDonald. And as the applicant states that the drop-off, there's a gap between the drop-off for each one of these operations. There's almost like a half an hour overlap gap between one school's drop-off and pickup to another. And even if, let's say, if it's not done in the most perfect synchronized way, I think half an hour I feel gives enough of the space for staging and clearing of the space for the next round of drop-off and pickup. So that I felt good about. However, in terms of the trending of the of vehicular mode from private cars to vans, that's a trend that is happening. And based on that, the analysis has been done. So, of course, part of the findings related to this special permit is for DOT to determine the analysis and how, the uptake in the trend affects the modal transportation and traffic flow. So I do think that is, we do not have any feedback from DOT on that. So we look for that information. The applicant provided clarity on the co-sharing of spaces. I though would encourage going forward where possible for the school to look at ways to do more co-sharing, not only of some of the common areas within the classes, which may be a little bit difficult, but definitely of the parking spaces that is used. So that they should look at ways of, if any space frees up in that parking space, to kind of see how that can be co-shared by the school at McDonald and Avenue T faculty members. In terms of the structural consideration, I thought the response was very thorough and it was very helpful for that clarification. So I was satisfied with that, and the statement of fact has been revised accordingly. And as directed by Commissioner Otley Brown, the site search study has been revised. I'm sure Commissioner Otley Brown will have something to say. It seemed fine to me. I would like a little bit more update on the SECRA status, Ms. Benke.
Hi, yeah, we still have open hazmat. The phase 2 report, RAP and Jasper sent to DEP in December, and we should be hearing back from them this month. Still open DOT, hoping to hear back this month as well, and open air quality and noise, which we do not have a estimate for that.
Okay. And with regarding to the noise, the applicant did state that the existing building meets all the prior noise requirements. It has all the required noise attenuation as it was prescribed. And that is what is being proposed also for the expansion and for the new construction. That's my understanding. So it's for DEP to make that determination, whether there need further changes need to be done. Vice Chair Shibata. Thank you, Ms. Benke.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Ms. Benke. I'm satisfied with this application. I hope that we can help our sister agencies along to move this applicant forward. I have nothing further.
Thank you. Commissioner Otley Brown?
Yes, I read the submission and I found it to be very thorough. So since you had referred the site search to me for comments, I asked them to revise it, and they revised the site search to actually focus on the 2 sites that actually had the possibility of being occupied, the only 2 that were really available. And they focused in on the fact that the main issue is that the entire ECC needed to be either located together here at this site or move to a larger site that could accommodate both portions of it. And so I found it very convincing. I have no further questions as to the site search. I found the discussion about the structural issues that prevented them from enlarging vertically to be very helpful for me in understanding the reasons why they need the waivers that they need. And I definitely agree, after reading about the co-sharing, that it would not work to take itty bitty children north in the winter and then back south to use spaces like the gymnasium that aren't even going to be 100% vacant when they use them, which then of course would bring in the issue of safety, protection of the little children when the larger children are running around like crazy. So I thought all in all, a very good submission, and I looked at the arrival and dismissal operations, and it seems like they have packed in enough buffer space to isolate the different schools in their arrival and dismissal so that it should not provide too much congestion on the streets during that time. So I have no further questions.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Shetta?
Thank you, Chair. I'll comment on the structural submission first. I looked at the report by the structure engineer, and they cited 2 main reasons for why they cannot do the vertical enlargement. The first one is the crane that would be needed if they want to like add on top of the existing building. The second one was the limitations on the load carrying capacity of columns, walls, and floor elements, including roofing system, the existing one. I do agree with them on what is mentioned on that aspect. I do believe that the report now is much more site specific. The previous report was very generalized. It wasn't site specific, so that was like tackled in this submission. The second reason cited was the utilization of the crane and the conflict between that and the TA. I just want to like take some reservations on that, not to cite a precedent for like this kind of like sites that's adjacent to an elevated TA structure. Uh, Although the structural reason is enough for me to consider that they need the waiver, I do not buy the argument that the need for the crane like trigger the need for the variance. So I'm okay with the application as overall based on the structural reasoning, but the crane issue is I don't want to I want to say that I'm not like buying that. That's all what I have. Thank you.
Okay. All right, thank you. Commissioner Yoon.
Thank you. I agree with everything that's been said, including Commissioner Shetta's, I say skepticism about the crane argument as a reason for the variance, but otherwise I'm satisfied with the application and I have nothing further.
Okay. So you're all skeptical about the crane argument, but you're satisfied with the structural reasoning.
Yes, just that I believe that a crane or construction has occurred and does occur near the elevated train lines throughout the city. And there are means and methods for that, but I don't think that's the crux of this variance. And I believe, I thought the structural letter was otherwise very thorough.
Okay,
Chair, if I may,
yes,
if I may, I want to add some clarification to my statement. Yes, the reason for what I said is I do believe that even if they want to like add around the building like they proposing, I do believe some craning effort would be needed because they still need to put some like floor elements, some columns. So construction is construction. They're gonna need a crane no matter what, whether they add on top of the building or they add in the back in the yard. That's why I'm saying that the need for the crane is not the trigger for that need for the variance.
Okay.
Just wanted to clarify this and avoid future like argument on other applications that, hey, we're next to a TA structure, the crane is not possible, we need a variance. So I just wanted to highlight this. Thank you.
fair enough. And I would say to our council, when we do write the report, we make that distinction. The argument of the structural was really the reason where the board felt compelled, not necessarily the means and methods of the crane part of it.
And I want to commend their structure engineer for the like the clarity in the submitted letter report that although it was like very summarized and very brief, but it was very easy to follow and we're very thorough in the kind of analysis that was done. Thank you.
Thank you. Mhm. All right.
Move on. I'm waiting for somebody.
Is there any other questions or comments? Okay, we can move on.
Okay. New cases, item number 25, 2023, 24 BZ, 1046 East 22nd Street, Brooklyn. No,
Yes.
public hearing.
All right, we received proof of service of initial filing and hearing notice. Committee board has voted to approve this case. This is an application for an enlargement of an existing detached home located in Brooklyn Community District 14, pursuant to zoning resolution section 73-622. The applicant is seeking a waiver of FAR, open space, rear yard and side yard. General comments regarding this application. I had difficulty reading the plan. It needs, if needed, the applicant should be provided a sample. There were no not arrows to orient the plan with, and it was not clear which is front, which is rear of the lot. What is the existing width of the side yard? The applicant needs to provide separate existing and proposed site plan with dimensions. Also, the drawings need to have an existing and proposed building height, perimeter wall height, need to provide section cut lines for all the sections that are shown, A, B, and C. And the applicant needs to indicate the sky exposure plane above the perimeter wall height. So with all those misgivings on the plans, I did my best to understand what is being proposed, what is being removed. And so first question I have with regards to the proposed is the second and the attic floor plan setting back from the rear lot line, and what is the proposed rear yard depth on the second and the attic floor? Regarding the retention of the exterior wall, according to the drawings, it states 52% of the exterior wall will be retained on the first floor, 58% on the second floor, 50% on third floor being attic. So the dimension of the existing perimeter walls to remain and to demolish have not been indicated. It was very difficult to read that and understand what is being retained. And other than having to go back and forth between the existing plan, which also was not very consistent in terms of what is being demolished. So need to carry all the string dimensions of the existing walls that are to remain, existing total walls, then break them up by what is the wall section of the wall that is going to remain in the exterior, and exterior walls that is going to be demolished, and then show the math of each one of these portions that is being demolished and being retained, and how one is arriving at these percentages. So regarding the retention of the existing exterior wall, the dimension plans and the proposed plans are not corresponding. So therefore, string dimensions become very critical. Also, retention of the existing slab is not matching, especially for the second floor, where the stairway leading down is open to below. Also, it is not clear what is happening in the room where the stair is going up to the attic from the second floor. Is it open to below or open to above? It's not at all clear. Similarly, for the first floor exterior wall to be retained, it is not matching the proposed plan. And with regards to the attic floor plan, I think there is a confusion, at least the way I'm reading the drawing, and that is probably the shortcoming of the plan itself. It seems a portion of the wall is being counted as an exterior wall when it actually is an interior wall. This is the attic portion. There is a, it's to the interior. So it's not very clear. And if it is counted as an interior wall, the exterior wall that will become part of interior wall, I don't think then you reach the 50% mark for the attic. That needs to be revised. So overall, you know, in terms of the FAR that is being asked, and it may not be too much, but these are, there's a basic threshold with regards to the retention of the exterior wall, and that needs to be responded to. And also with regards to the rear yard, it's not clear whether the second floor and the attic is being set back from the 20-foot, beyond the 20-foot. So those are my questions or comments. Vice Chair Shibata.
Well, thank you, Chair. I agree with your comments, and I have nothing further to add.
Okay. Commissioner Otley Brown.
I have no additional comments.
Okay. Commissioner Shetta.
Thank you, Chair. Regarding the firm, I saw that they submitted an index map. I just need a confirmation from them that there is no firm existing for this site. I did look at the zoning analysis and the drawings, and I did compare the floor area that's proposed. In the zoning analysis, it says 5,265.9 square feet. I believe this is inconsistent with the statement of facts and the drawings, which indicate 5,325.96 square feet. So if what I said is correct, they need to like fix the consistency between the zoning analysis and both the statement and the drawings. And
Okay.
also, I haven't seen that they address the violations, if any, in the statement of fact. So I would like them to add a sentence or so on the violations. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Commissioner Yoon.
Thank you. Also, noticed a typo in the statement of facts in the zoning floor area chart under legal. It says that the legal floor area is 5,337.5 at an FAR of 0.5, which is not correct. It should read, I think, 2,669. So I also didn't understand the retention plans and would appreciate if the dimension strings were explicitly for calculating retention on the same sheet where the calculation is happening, so that we can clearly identify which walls are exterior and existing, which ones will be retained and which ones will be demolished. They're on separate pages, and so it's difficult for us to make that comparison. And then, as Chair mentioned, there may be inconsistencies, but then there's also, I'm sharing the third floor plan, which is on the left-hand side, and the building has dormer windows, 3 on what would be page right and 1 on page left. And there are these wing walls that are being calculated as part of the existing third floor plan exterior walls, which I don't believe count as exterior walls, because that's not, I think, I haven't seen that convention of drawing a plan where the wall is essentially just a wing wall when your roof is pitched. There's nothing. In any case, I don't agree with the way this is calculated, the way this is drawn. I think that your exterior wall follows the line of the occupiable space of the roof and includes these dormers, but does not include these wing walls. And I do think that will affect your retention calculation on the third floor.
Okay.
I have nothing further to add.
Yeah, I think, as you mentioned, the string dimensions, again, what Commissioner Yoon said, I completely agree. There needs to be a clear dimension plans for the retention, but also then it needs to be consistent with the existing plan and the proposed plan. So that just please go through it carefully and make sure all of these dimensions are matching across all the diagrams. Okay. Any other questions or comments? All right, let's go to the next case.
Item number 26, 2023, 26BZ, 3002 Farragut Road, Brooklyn.
Okay, we have received proof of service of initial filing and hearing notice. Community board submitted its letter of opposition, stating basically parking being a challenge in the neighborhood, and also further asked the applicant to participate in programs to provide exposure and educational opportunities for high school students, career path, and make a meaningful contribution to the community. This is an application for a variance pursuant to zoning resolution section 7221 of for a parking requirement of a proposed ambulatory diagnostic treatment facility at the subject site. So the applicant is seeking a waiver of the parking that would be required pursuant to zoning resolution section 36-21. What is required is 47 spaces. The applicant is proposing 5 spaces. So I have to say, first of all, the narrative is a little bit confusing because it talks about existing use, but at the same time, the building has been demolished as of September 2023. So the application needs to be reviewed as a vacant site. With regards to the as of right plan, the applicant is, also gave an example of the as of right 6-story building that is located at 3007 Farragut. And it's a 6-story building with 5 parking spaces. I'm just curious how such a similarly this particular site was approved as of right 5 parking. And my question is, if it was, why is it not applicable for the proposed site? So what the applicant is proposing is a 6-story cellar ambulatory diagnostic treatment facility. And it would basically allow for relocation and expansion of 2 of the functions, healthcare center, which is the B-Well, and the Gold Step Ambulatory Surgery Center, relocating it from the 3007 Farragut site to the subject site. And it would have 6 floors consisting of healthcare examination rooms and surgery rooms, a waiting area, and office spaces. So just a couple of questions I have. One is, what is the difference between the waiting area on the first floor versus the patient area and the waiting area on the first floor above and on the floors above? Why can't the waiting area on the ground floor be minimized to provide more on-site parking and possibly using stackers? Is the parking that is being proposed a self-parking, and who will park there? I have to say the narrative was very, very scant and not clear in terms of the operation and what is happening, what will be happening, and how it would pair with the existing operation. So moving to the findings, the applicant statement states that the parking waiver is required to meet the programmatic need of the healthcare and surgical center and a vital component, and it is a vital component of the clinical training education program, and to overcome the hardship created by the unique physical condition. And for that, the applicant is citing a Cornell deference for the variance. The argument provided with Gold Step Ambulatory Surgery Center that has been valid, the various documents that's been provided by the educational facilities. Some are valid for a few years, some are on a yearly basis. I have to say, and all of these documents definitely does not lend itself to being qualifying for a deference. An agreement of 5-year and a 1-year contract to be renewed annually to afford educational deference is not what Cornell deference was intended for, and it opens up for a Pandora's box, and not to mention misuse. Statement of fact states that it would be a training ground for medical students and estimates 2 to 4 students per day, 2 to 3 days per week. This is like, it is almost kind of saying a doctor having an intern walk in and being there for 20 hours of the week and gets paid by the doctor, and somehow the other student gets to write a resume saying, I did an internship. This is just absolutely not the way the deference was intended to be, and I do not see right from the get-go how this qualifies as a deference, educational deference. Is the educational program in operation with other Gold Step facilities? How many students participating in the existing program? Is it accredited? How does the program vary from any of the interns at the medical office? Like I said, the information is lacking regarding the proposed education program, and not at all clear how an educational floor on the proposed facility will support the education program. The statement of fact is extremely weak in describing the existing facility across the street. Will there be any sharing of services? Will both of the functions and will there be complementing services? I don't really want to get into much of the financing. I know it has been provided. Neighborhood character, I don't want to talk about that one later on, but I want to jump to, I think what I'm getting at is when I'm looking at this document, first of all, there is a remedy. There is an administrative remedy for ambulatory care facilities, which is going through the special permit to reduce the number of parking spaces. The applicant needs to go through that argument and justify why it can or cannot meet it. I think I know where the applicant is going to land. Is basically saying we want to get to a zero-sum parking facility. Well, if that's the case, the neighborhood character study, the comments that I have, I'm going to read later on, doesn't address that, and it does not help the argument at all. And you cannot use, therefore, the Cornell doctrine as a reason for why a parking waiver is needed. The Cornell doctrine is specifically with regards to educational deference. And in this case, the educational deference, as I said, is extremely tenuous, if existing at all. There has, the statement of fact fails to show the nexus between the educational program and the variance needed. There has to be a proportionality to the relief to quantify the programmatic need. Thus far, based on the information provided, I fail to see the nexus and question if deference is at all applicable. And even if there was a scant chance of it being applicable, it is not driving the need for the waiver for the parking requirement. You're stating in your statement that there'll be like 2 to 3 students coming like 2 to 3 times a week. And they will be mostly coming from the neighboring schools or so, and there is no parking need from that. And so the parking waiver of 47 is definitely not coming from the student. It's coming from the operation of the healthcare system, the healthcare center, and the surgical program. So the nexus is absolutely not there, and I fail to see how we can extend the deference in this case. I would strongly suggest the applicant revise its application and consider a special permit, and look at redesigning the site where they can provide the ground floor with more parking with stackers, because going back to the neighborhood context, the engineering study that was provided, while it says that as part of the surgical thing, most of the operation here is going to be for surgery, though there are 2 floors for surgery, 2 floors for healthcare center. So you cannot just use one to say, therefore, 0 parking would be required. But if there's going to be co-sharing, maybe that could be an argument between the 2 existing facilities. But more importantly, I think what the analysis I thought was weak. And when I looked at the Google Street View, I saw the existing facility. You're using the existing facility as an example, and the existing facility has spillover of vehicles that are parked on the sidewalk. You not only have 5 parking spaces within the building, but there's a spillover of parking spaces. And there are like 4 or 5 vehicles that are parked on the sidewalk. And that is what the community board complained about. So I just do not see the analysis being very thorough, being accurate, and based on what I see and what I've reviewed, and the parking utilization in this on-street parking utilization is extremely high. When you look at block frontage by block frontage analysis, the parking utilization is extremely high. So there is the supply to demand analysis. I question that. And so I would strongly suggest the applicant reconsider this application, revert it to a special permit, and not consider a deference, because I do not see how the deference can be applied here at all. And I am eager to hear from the other commissioners as to what they think about it, and move forward. Vice Chair Shibata.
Thank you, Chair. I don't want to be repetitive, but I do agree with much of the statements that you've made. I believe that the argument for Cornell deference here is very strained, and the relief that they're requesting is far attenuated from the actual Cornell argument itself. So I too would second your advice to the applicant to revise this and ask for the much more simple parking waiver, which seems to be much more aligned with what the request and the relief that he's requesting. I have nothing further.
Okay. Thank you. Commissioner Otley Brown.
So it is very rare that we get a request on a for-profit project to be able to use the Cornell deference argument on their behalf. And the board has been very clear about limiting Cornell deference to not-for-profit projects that are either educational or religious in their basis. And there's a reason why. It is if you allow a for-profit project to claim deference, it is a slippery slope in that for-profit project can be as large as it wants to, and in doing that, convey profits to the property owner and not necessarily provide benefits to the community. And the whole idea of Cornell deference is that the project is going to be a benefit to the community because education is a benefit to the surrounding community, to the larger community, to the world, or religious needs are such that, the entire community that attends that will benefit from having their religious needs satisfied, as well as the larger society will benefit from having a large population of people who are guided by religious tenets. So those ideas, they fall when you talk about a for-profit project, which is all about maximizing profits to the owner. And so to allow this project to slip by solely on a programmatic needs discussion to me, would open the door in the future to any for-profit operation to just put a few students on some floor and then claim programmatic deference for the entire building. So could you imagine a 50-story condominium where the second floor is a religious school claiming programmatic need and Cornell deference for the entire 50 stories and then getting a variance, especially if the use could possibly be a transient use, which means if that use vacates it, then all you've got is a for-profit project. And so that's why the board has always been very careful about allowing Cornell deference arguments and programmatic need to be used in this way. And so the few cases that we've had where we've had a for-profit project that has had some portion of it that would require deference, the board has been very clear that the project almost has to be bifurcated between the not-for-profit project portion of it that's claiming deference with the rest of the project pursuing a traditional variance application. And if you look in our history, there are a couple of cases that we've had where that's occurred. One of them is very famous, Sherith Israel, where the board was very clear that the deference argument for religious need and educational need should narrowly apply only to the synagogue and the religious school associated with the synagogue, and that the for-profit condominium project had to pursue a more traditional variance route and had to satisfy the 5 findings. And so for this case, at the very least, if we were going to consider it, it should only allow a deference conversation for that small portion of space on the 6th floor that's going to accommodate the classrooms and the gathering space for the medical students and medical residents who would be attending the programs here. The rest of the project, the other 5 floors, would have to pursue a traditional variance application, which means they have to have a finding of uniqueness that isn't that they're providing students on the 6th floor. And this lot, which is, I believe, 4,000 square feet, it's 40 by 100, it's now a vacant lot. I find it would be very difficult for them to meet the bar of a traditional variance in terms of showing uniqueness, number one, and showing how their uniqueness, excuse me? Hello?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Oh, okay, I heard something I didn't know.
No.
Showing their uniqueness and showing how that uniqueness is leading to a hardship, the hardship here not being able to provide any parking. And so I saw that the applicant did provide us with a listing of all of the different cases that have received deference. But if you look at that listing, every single one of those cases represents a not-for-profit healthcare facility. Most of them were associated with very large not-for-profit hospitals. So I didn't find any of that to be applicable here. And those are my views. I didn't get much further in the application because I think that this is a threshold issue that has to be ironed out before we go any further.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. Thank you. Yes, I'm glad you mentioned the listing of deferences, and I looked through those, and I think what struck out in all of them, there was a very clear connection between the request that was being asked for, whether that was a height and setback variance or a street wall variance or FAR variance or curb cut location variance, all directly connected to the service it provides and the direct educational connection to the programs that these institutions run. As you mentioned, they have all of these institutions have their own educational component as well as a medical component. So there was a clear correlation. This one lacked it. Commissioner Shah. Oh, Vice Chair Shibata, sorry, go ahead. I didn't see. Go ahead.
Well, I just wanted to clarify from my position. I do certainly appreciate everything that Commissioner Otley Brown stated. We may divert a small factor. While I do not believe that this application in and of itself is meretricious of Cornell deference for a myriad of reasons that have been discussed. The bar, for me, it is not solely a bar that it is a for-profit institution. I say that for cases moving forward, but this particular case, I don't see deference being afforded here.
Yeah, I agree. I think the deference definitely is not afforded here, whether it's a for-profit or non-profit, and especially in this case, the educational part, which the applicant is citing, is not existing at all. And like I said, it is no different from another doctor's office where they have one or two interns who come in and occasionally help out and get to write it in their resume that they did do some internship at a medical institution or a doctor's office per se. So I definitely do not see the connection in this case. Commissioner Shetta.
Thank you, Chair. I do agree with what's mentioned so far. I do feel that the application didn't meet the A finding for the uniqueness based on the Cornell. The reason, as you mentioned, Chair, that even considering the visiting students or trainee from medical schools, etc., to the facility during 2 or 3 days a week, that doesn't trigger the need for a parking waiver. So I don't think even if the case was the case described in the statement of fact, I would say that the A finding is still not there. I did look at the structural engineering report and I take no reservations on it. There were no much to review. They indicated that the existing building was founded on loose sand mixed with silt, some kind of weak soil, and the kind of foundation existed for that building was rubble walls. So since I haven't seen any structural detailed analysis, I wouldn't comment on that report. And I do believe that the site could be considered as a vacant site. I have no issue with that. I see that there are some mix-up in the statement of facts. Sometimes you feel like the building that they said they demolished is still there. They talk about proposed residential. I'm not sure what is that. So the statement of fact probably need to be flushed out and take the look at. The only thing that I want to highlight, and it catch my eye, is on page 5 when it talks about the adjacent facility at 3007. They talk about the fact that they obtained a special permit and then they went to the DOB, and according to the statement of facts, they say that DOB waived the entire parking because it was less than 25. I just want to make it clear here that this is not the position of at least of myself. I'm not sure about the rest of the members, but my opinion on this matter was expressed probably years ago. It cannot be double dip when it comes to the parking waiver. If the board requires n number of spaces, it should stay n number of spaces, and it shouldn't be subject to any further waivers at any other sister agency. I wanted to make this clear. That's all what I have on this application, but I do agree with your position, Chair, with Vice Chair position and Commissioner Brown. Thank you.
Yeah, and I think there are court cases out there that clearly states that with regards to the special permit, the board can only approve a plan which allows for the waiver up to what the board is granting, not what eventually DOB may or may not do. And I'm sure the applicant is quite aware of that court case.
I recall there was one case that the board, I recall at least one case that the board.
I think I just want to, let's not discuss that because that is not relevant to this. I'm more curious if that existing building could be built as of right. And it seems it's the same lot area, same number of floors, same number of parking spaces. Why can't that be applied? It was more of an academic exercise for me to know why that is not being applied here. But I don't want to discuss how that building got done and right and wrong and what our past consideration was, because it's all very clearly codified. And if the applicant decides to proceed with a special permit, I think we can flag those questions and we can discuss those questions at that time.
Understood. And my intention was not to talk about that specific bill.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Yoon?
Thank you. On that note, I thought in the in the statement of facts, the 3007 Farragut building is only subject to R6 and not to the C13 overlay. So they were allowed to calculate at a factor of 1 per 800, which results in 23 spaces, which is below 25 and can be waived by the Department
see.
of Buildings.
Okay.
Whereas the site in question is a C13 overlay where you're required to calculate based on 1 per 400, which then doubles effectively
Okay.
doubles the requirement.
Got it.
So that's what I understood from the statement of facts. While we're talking about the statement of facts, I also agree that the arguments were weak. Maybe I should back up and also say that I agree that deference is not applicable and that the variance requested does not correspond to the portion of the program that is seeking deference. For the statement of facts, it was also confusing to me. There seemed to be a lot of description of services and spaces from the existing building moving to the new building, but it was not clear what was replacing those existing spaces in the
Mhm.
existing building. Separately, I went to the site a couple weeks ago, and as you noted, Chair, there was a full parking lot. It was a similar size. I think it has 5 spaces for the existing building, I should say. There were the loading zone that was completely full of parked cars with no occupants. So it looked like they had been there for some time. Plus 3 cars parked on the sidewalk with one. There was one with somebody idling in front of the front door on the sidewalk at the corner. So to me, that read as insufficient parking for the existing building and that the loading zone must be being used as additional parking because there was nobody there waiting to be loaded or unloaded. And so it echoes the community board's concerns based on the site visit that I made. Some of that, anyway, that's all I have on this case. Thank you.
Thank you for your visit, and that is helpful because I just saw it on the Google Street View, and Google Street View is impartial to any particular day or time or anything. It just takes these pictures and it just shows vehicles that are parked along the entire frontage of 3007 Farragut, wrapping around the entire building, which basically the community has raised the concern very justly, and and for the study to say that there is enough supply and the demand is being met, it's erroneous and it needs to be corrected. So, all right. Any other questions or comments, commissioners?
Nope.
All right.
Okay, this concludes the public review session for January 9th, 2024.
All right. Should we take a 10-minute break? We're at 10:50 point, 10:50. Let's take a 10-minute break and then we will resume. I just want the commissioners who are joining in virtually to know that we do have a pretty big group of people in the audience who will be talking regarding, I believe, the last case, because I just saw them walk out. Maybe our comments made them feel that they needed to discuss. So I just want to let you know that we will have live participation from our applicant team for the Farragut case. Okay. So 10-minute break. We will join at 11 o'clock.
Okay, members of the board.
Waiting for Shampa.
Okay.
Shampa? Mask up and test.
Okay, we're ready to proceed. Ms. Matias, we are live and streaming. You may proceed with the public hearings.
Have the screen up. Good morning. This is the New York City Board of Standards and Appeals public hearing for January 9th, 2024. First item up on the zoning calendar, continued hearing items is 2017-269 BZ, 65 Grasmere Avenue, Staten Island.
This would be Mr. Dale.
Yes, Todd Dale. Oh.
Is. I just changed, you did?
Good morning.
Is there anyone else with you, Mr. Dale?
No, just,
Raise your right hand. Do you affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in your testimony before this board, to respond honestly to board member questions?
I do so affirm.
Please state your name for the record and proceed to respond to board's comments.
Todd Dale for the applicant. I did listen to review session and, based on the discussion, we're primarily waiting for the air quality sign off from DEP. For my records, that was submitted in November, it appears.
Doing the best we can with that.
Yeah, I think it's a wait and see on this one. I do have to say, I
Chair, we're not able to hear you.
Yes, Madam Chair, is your microphone on?
Oops, sorry. Can you all hear me now? Okay, I'm sorry. So the only thing I want to, on this one, I need to keep the record open because of the air quality issue. And that is a large part of the neighborhood character. And if there's anything in the analysis that shows up that requires modification or change, then the documents need to be revised. So for that reason, I would like to keep this open. That's the only distinction I'm making. Generally, I tend to close off when all the other findings are met. And I think here there's a more direct correlation between the air quality and the neighborhood character. Any questions or comments for the applicant? Okay, let's go to the public then.
Okay, the case that we're currently discussing, I'm waiting for Jello to bring up the screen. Thank you, Jello. The case we're currently discussing is 2017-269 BZ, 65 Grasmere Avenue, Staten Island. Should you wish to discuss, dial 646-518-9805 or a toll-free number 888-475-4499. At the prompt, you will enter the webinar ID number 871-3545-8687 and press the pound sign. At the next prompt after that, you will press the pound sign only. Once you're permitted in, you will press *9 to raise your hand, *6 to unmute if you're calling in on the phone. And if you're in the Zoom room already and wish to participate, please raise your Zoom hand, which is the little hand at the bottom of your computer screen. Once you are recognized, you will have 3 minutes in which to discuss.
Okay, we definitely
To go forfeit.
will need DEP to review and sign off. Ms. Benke, do you have a rough idea of how long it will take for DEP?
No, I'm sorry.
Okay, all right. Okay, Mr. Dale, we will keep you posted as and when we get any information.
Understood, and we understand why the record's being kept open. We don't anticipate issues, but it's fully understandable. So thank you.
Okay.
Right now, we just have to wait for the clock to run out. Sorry. Commissioner Yoon, your camera is off.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thanks, Tony.
Yeah, text me.
Oh, you
Why did she text me?
didn't see. Oh,
Almost done.
oh, okay, got it. Thank you.
Okay. That's it. Okay. Move on to next piece.
Thank you, Mr. Dale. Oh, sorry, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Dale. We will keep you posted and as and when we'll schedule accordingly. So we'll have to keep it flexible.
Understood. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Item number 23, 2023-04BZ, 2170 McDonald Avenue, Brooklyn. Sorry, and 20207BZ. And item number 24, 2023-05BZ, 321 Avenue T, Brooklyn.
Okay, I just promoted Mr. Goldstein to panelist. Is there anyone else in your team, Mr. Goldstein?
Sorry, it's just kicking in, so I know, Madam Chair, you were speaking. I have with me the project architect and project engineer. I don't, based on the comments, don't believe they're necessary, so I'll just swear in. And if we
Okay.
do comments for them, we can swear them in after.
Okay. Raise your right hand. Do you affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in your testimony before this board and to respond honestly to board member questions?
I do.
Please state your name for the record and proceed to respond to board's comments at review session.
Good morning, Jay Goldstein on behalf of the applicant. We listened to the review session this morning, and we understand that the board is satisfied with the application, and we appreciate the thorough and responsive or thorough and thoughtful comments that the board had. We will, Madam Chair, work as best we can to co-share spaces, including parking spaces, if that becomes applicable. And Commissioner Shetta, we understand your comment with regards to the crane, and the board can make that as part of their resolution, make it clear.
Okay, so it would be helpful if you can provide a letter to that effect that you will look at exploring ways of co-sharing that parking space with your staff.
Yeah,
and,
no problem.
I don't, I don't want to get into what is the occupancy or anything, but that is something that in your agreement or as part of your program operational plan, you would continue to do. If you can provide a letter to that.
That's fine. No problem.
Oh, we just. There's an email from Jill.
Yeah, we just received hazmat.
Yeah, thank you,
comments.
Commissioner.
Oh,
Yeah, we just received it as well. We'll review the hazmat, and we'll wait for the other comments from the city agencies, sister agencies, and respond accordingly.
Yes, it is. It appears there'll be supplemental testing needed for hazmat.
Okay. Supplemental, I just read wrap and chast, but no problem. We'll review and we'll address accordingly.
Thanks.
Okay, all right. So, and also the outstanding comment is also DOT, because we do need DOT's
Mhm.
approval, because that is one of the findings of the special.
Right.
So, any
And
questions?
I think they have everything from us. It's just waiting for them to comment and we'll respond accordingly and work with the board.
Right, yeah. And I know both Ms. Pranga and Benki are working very closely with DOT and DEP in its review, and but stay tuned. And any questions or comments from the commissioners for Mr. Goldstein? Okay, let's then go to the public.
Okay, the case that we're currently discussing is 2023-04 BZ and 20207 BZ, 2170 McDonald Avenue, Brooklyn, and a companion case, 2023-05 BZ, 321 Avenue T, Brooklyn. Should you wish to discuss, dial 646-518-9805 or a toll-free number, which is 888-475-4499. At the prompt, you will enter the webinar ID number 871-3545-8687 and press the pound sign. At the prompt, the next prompt after that, you will press the pound sign only. Once you're permitted in, press *9 to raise your hand, *6 to unmute if you're calling in on the phone. And if you're in the Zoom room already and wish to participate, please raise your Zoom hand, which is the little hand at the bottom of your computer screen. Once you are recognized, you will have 3 minutes in which to discuss. Are you speaking today? Oh, so you can come up. State your name for the record. Come.
Yeah, please come.
You want to move the mic
Please
a little?
state your name
Yeah, state
first
for the
for the
name.
record. Please first state your name.
Is this
Your
Oh,
name,
sorry, is the microphone on?
Can you push the red button
Push the
on
red
the
button.
microphone?
there's a red button right there. Okay.
Okay,
Yeah, thank you.
Debbie,
it's okay now?
Yeah, thank
Please
you.
state your name again.
Yosef Malach,
Okay.
Malach. Yeah, I'm live 187 Lake Street, Brooklyn, New York, 11223. This is exactly behind the school, 2117 McDonald Avenue.
Okay, go ahead.
And I still against where they're gonna make the building exactly behind my backyard. They're gonna go exactly the wall of my backyard. They're gonna be 2, 3 floor, and it's gonna close the lock or the cover of the light and the view. And beside that is gonna be also the property is gonna be dropped down. And beside that, maybe if they're gonna build it, I don't know if another things, if they're gonna make in the building window or no, because the windows, if they're gonna open, is gonna see all my bedroom in just a couple feet. They're gonna see everything in my house. That's why I projected for all this.
I appreciate your comments. I think one of the things when we do look at these actions, there are a set of findings that has to be met. And the findings are by and large associated. I mean, the neighborhood character is a good part of it. And one of the things we also weigh in is what can be built as of right to what is being proposed. And the incremental difference is also another thing that we look at. The neighborhood character in this case, a large part of it is the, more than the height of the building, it's really the traffic circulation that I know a lot of people have complained about and have concerns. And that is also part of the findings. They need to make sure that the traffic trip generation from this is not going to affect the neighborhood character.
Because the building where they're gonna build exactly in my backyard is not gonna hit another neighbor. Just go exactly in my backyard.
Right.
The application is also subject to environmental review
Yes.
to ensure that it does not impose any environmental concerns.
Right. So we also are waiting for the environmental review on this to be completed.
Also, I do believe they are proposing no windows where they're extending. And so the concern about privacy, at least, I believe.
For everything, privacy and no light, no, they're gonna cover the light. He's not gonna see light. If you sit in the backyard, you don't see nothing, just to see building.
I understand. I just want to bring up to the one point about windows facing your
Yeah,
building. They're proposing a windowless elevation, so there won't be windows.
And not gonna be windows?
See, I believe you're either facing.
Where is mine?
or here.
I want to kind of bring it to everybody's attention that we generally do not get into.
I
this much of
apologize. I just
discussion.
I thought it was a good point.
It
I
is
wanted
an
to find
important
out.
point, and I think another point is that this site, if it were to be built as of right, the zoning allows full lot line coverage buildings, so that is something to bear in mind. I want to thank you. I understand your concern, and I appreciate you coming to all our hearings and stating your concerns. And it's not that we have not looked into it. We did ask the applicant to look at ways to not have to build in the rear yard. But they have to go through the reasons, and the reasonings that they're provided were very convincing for this particular case. But this environmental review is still outstanding. We are waiting for all of that analysis, and until that is done, we are not voting on it. Okay, so I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. No other callers, yeah. Okay. So, what are we doing?
Okay, we cannot close.
No, I just thought you would finish conversation with them.
Okay.
Okay, so we'll get back to you on a date, Mr. Goldstein.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, the letter can be quick, so I guess if we have, it'll have to revolve around the seeker analysis. So we'll work with staff, Ms. Prenga and Ms. Banky, to continue that analysis and continue the responses.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you very much, everyone.
Okay, thank you.
And you can call the project manager to, Jella, you can call her she'll let you know the new date.
Thank you.
Okay?
Thank you.
You're
Thank you
welcome.
very much.
Take care. Okay, new cases, item number 25, 2023, 24 BZ, 1046 East 22nd Street, Brooklyn.
Do I try to find Liz Fuller virtually? Oh, no, she's here.
Hi, nice to see you. I haven't seen you in a while.
Is anyone else,
No, but
no one else is
virtually, yes. So virtually, there'll be a Neil and a Shannon.
Neil Schwartz and
Yeah.
Shannon Ernest?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so that's everybody for Friday. Okay.
And Sharon who?
Shannon, Ernest?
Shannon.
Ernest, I hope. that's
Yeah,
Ernest.
Shannon Ernest. Oh, there she got.
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
She's joining.
I see her.
Okay.
Just
All
want to
right.
get everybody sworn in. Okay, please raise your right hands. Do you affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in your testimony before this board to respond honestly to board member questions?
I do.
Please state, we're going to proceed to respond to the board's comments. Are you okay?
Yes.
Okay.
Elise Fullader from Eric Polanic, PC. Thank you so much. We heard your comments this morning. Neil and Shannon are from the architect's office. They're the architecture team. We looked at a few examples, but I think that DOB plans and DSA plans sometimes gets a little confusing. So we'd like to just share the plans with you and talk through what you're looking for. So we make sure that on the next round,
Sure.
we get it right because they have a few questions. So
Sure.
if you guys could do me the wonderful favor of sharing the plan since I'm real life today, that would be great. And we can go through and ask questions as you need.
Or I can share if that's easier. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah.
Would you?
Why
Thank you,
don't you
Mr.
do
Schwartz.
that? I think you have the ability.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
the-
Yeah, because then you can turn to the pages that
Yeah.
you have questions on.
I appreciate everyone's comments. Thank you. And I understand that we need to clarify the strings and dimensions, and I think we just want to hone down a little bit on what exactly we're looking for in terms of the existing and items to remain. So the real, and we'll put the existing and proposed on one page. I think you mentioned send examples. If you have specific ways that you want us to represent it, feel free, and we can consolidate and make it easier for everyone else to read. And the biggest question that we had though was with regards to the third floor, and this is one of the chairs or one of had shared this, and we have a situation where we have a roof that slopes down, we have dormers in the roof, so we have attic space that's existing, but then towards the end of the attics, like once we go below 5 feet, right, there's no crawl space, there's no floor area and space there. So I think our biggest uncertainty was how to represent that and what we're supposed to do with that space. So technically we have an existing wall that's along that whole portion of the attic, but it's not accessible. Does that count as a wall? And I think that's where we need the most clarification in terms of what does count as existing to remain, what doesn't.
Yeah. Right. So I think anything that is exterior structural wall gets counted, and I'm just looking through my list of drawings also. Sometimes it's easier for me to.
Do you happen to have, this is Commissioner Yoon, do you happen to have a picture of the building so everyone can see what we're looking at of the existing building?
So here's the existing building.
Okay.
And I guess so. That was our main question. So we have this side wall, but at the point where the front of that dormer comes in, it gets too low. So like, does that whole side wall count? Does it not count? Does it part of it count? And that's part of our questions there.
Yeah, so I think these are, this attic space, the wall is, depending upon where you cut it, if you cut it at 4 foot, you have a 4 foot high wall, and after that, it's just the slope of the roof. And but what is being carried out is not the continuous slope of this roof. If it's going to be vertically extended, and when you vertically extend it, I don't think that can be counted as. I'm trying to visualize it. You have a 4 foot high wall and you're planning to retain that, and you're going to extend that vertically, right?
Yes.
So the attic roof gets extended.
Yeah.
I specifically had a comment where I rejected the inclusion of the wing walls as shown on your existing third floor plan.
Yes.
And so in my opinion, I don't think that those wing walls should be counted, and that architectural convention has it that you would draw the plan based on where you're cutting it, which say it's 3.5 feet, whatever it is, you would not ever include those wing walls as part of the plan.
Plans, right.
Okay. So is that the commission's, like, we should exclude those, anything below that cut line is not counted, and we should just not show that. Is that agreed?
Is there additional floor space that you are referencing? Because I'm speaking specifically about those wing walls that you're showing on your third floor plan.
No, I'm just referring to that. That's we can remove those. We won't count that.
Okay.
Okay. All right.
Just clarification.
Okay.
I think that's, we have to redo these and resubmit. There's, we understand that.
And I think our comment, you have a very thorough demolition plan, but for our purposes, we don't need to know all of the information about the finishes that are being demolished necessarily. What we're looking for on the retention calculation diagram, we should say, is very separate than what DOB is ever going to need. It's going to be a clearly dimensioned plan with just the exterior walls that you're going to retain and the ones that are existing to be demolished. And that way we can make sure you meet the threshold of the 50% retention.
Okay. Yeah, I think we understand that now. This is the first BSA thing we're going through. So we're, so I apologize for that.
No, it's not necessarily intuitive, but it is agency specific. So that would be helpful for us to review on the next go around.
No worries.
Great. Do you have any other questions? Yeah, I didn't want to cut you off. I know that they said about side yards and height and sections, but you understood all those, right?
And same thing goes for also retention of the existing joists and floor plans. Based on the plans and where the joists are being retained and removed, I think there's a mismatch between the proposed plan and the demolition, so that needs to be also clarified.
Can you also clarify, Neil and Shannon, if our rear yard and if we have a setback or not?
Yeah, that's the other.
Because I think that would be helpful on this.
Yeah.
We're proposing a 20-foot setback for the first floor, and then an additional. We'll dimension this. It should be dimensioned on this section, but the second floor and attic setback another 4 feet, 4'3".
So need to show that setback. So that's one of the things why I want a site plan. The site plan is missing for both the existing and the proposed. So in the proposed, indicate the setbacks, the side yard dimensions, the rear yard and the front yard dimensions. And also in the floor plan, when you go to the second floor, indicate that the width of the rear yard on the second floor is more than 20 feet. It's 24 or 25, whatever you're proposing. And it goes for the attic. So the plan, the sections in the site plan, everything, all those dimensions need to carry forth.
Okay.
Okay. Anything else? Yeah, so when I look at the second floor plan, I don't know what the depth of the side rear yard is. Same thing for front yard. Typically also in the front yard, if there was going to be a change from the ground floor, that dimension would have had to be shown. I don't know in this case if it changes. No, it does not. So it may not be that critical.
And they're not seeking front yard.
No, they're not. No, but yeah, that's right.
I like to set it actually a little, keep it a little further back so that it encroaches less on the streets.
Right. And I have a question regarding the stair. I think it's the stair that's leading from the second floor to the attic.
Yeah.
What's happening on the second floor? Is that a room? Or is that open? It looks like it's a room, but it's a room with just a stair. There's nothing else is happening.
It's really just a stair. There's going to be it's just a stair.
Yeah, so you have a room with a window with no access to it and with a stair leading up. Looks a little odd. And
yeah, sorry.
I'm talking about the stairs from the second floor that is going up to the attic.
Yeah.
It seems like it's a room with only access to the roof, to the stair, and then there's a window. Now, I don't know if that is open to below and that window is providing light to the space below. It's a little confusing.
We'll clarify that.
Yeah. And the reason I'm saying that is that also affects your joist calculation, floor area calculation, all of that.
Right.
Okay.
Okay. We'll clarify that.
Yeah. Specifically the second floor. I think that's where I have the confusion.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, but we're gonna have to update it anyway when they
Yeah,
fix
it's
things.
just a typo on the
Yeah,
statement.
Yeah.
changed it a few times, so apologies for any.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think when you revise the plans, all the dimensions, everything, just correct it across all the
Everything,
documents.
yes.
And we'll remove the stuff that we usually put for construction and for DOB.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I apologize. I mean, as Commissioner Yoon said, it's an agency direction. It's really we have to meet some basic thresholds, and for that, this is a necessary step of the documentation that needs to be provided. And if you want, we can give you a sample, but I think you understand what we are saying.
Yeah.
But do reach out to our project manager if you want some clarity.
And like I said, we did look at a few different samples, but I think until you go into the hearing and hear what you have to say, because the different agencies makes it a little confusing that DOB looks at it this way and BSC
Sure.
looks at it this way.
Okay. Any other questions or comments for Ms. Fullader and her team?
I don't think so. Shannon, is there anything on your end?
Okay, all right. Let's then go to the public. Okay.
The case we're currently discussing is 2023-24 BZ 1046 East 22nd Street, Brooklyn. Should you wish to discuss, dial 646-518-9805 or a toll-free number, which is 888-475-4499. At the prompt, you will enter webinar ID number 871-3545, 8687, and press the pound sign. At the next prompt, you will press the pound sign only. Once you're permitted in, you'll press *9 to raise your hand, *6 to unmute if you're calling in on the phone. And if you're in the Zoom room already, please raise your Zoom hand, which is the little hand at the bottom of your computer screen. Once you are recognized, you'll have 3 minutes in which to discuss.
Okay. So we need. How much time will it take for you to make these corrections?
I think around a month. I think we're looking at the March hearing if it's available.
Okay. We have space.
March, early March
11th, yeah, that one.
would be your February 22nd submission, if you're March 11th.
Yeah,
I
that's
think
that's
that-
more than enough time.
More-
We just want to
more
make
than
sure we
enough.
have a few rounds to fix it.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. We cannot close because we need to look at the revised set of plans.
We understand.
Need the clock to run out.
Yeah, just give me 3 minutes.
Thank you guys
Almost done.
in the computer.
Watch it either here or there.
I don't know where to look at them.
Yeah, it's too bad you're not here on a day when it's the full stack, usually.
I was used to that 5 years ago. We didn't have this. This is great.
Huh?
This is great.
You like it?
Well, yeah, because then we can show presentations. and-
Yeah.
Right, because that was one of the
Definitely.
complaints of the
That
community.
helps.
Right, the
Yeah.
community used to say, we can't see what their presence presented.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, yeah.
Oh, that too. But as long as everyone's smiling and laughing.
We try our best.
Okay, that's it.
Okay, thank you, Ms.
Thank
Fuller. Good to see you in person.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you for your participation.
You're up.
No, Tony's Alice.
Huh?
So no, Tony is Alice.
You're in the center. Right.
Look up.
Here's the story.
You're Alice.
Aren't we short of one person?
Yeah, one person.
You have the presentation? Where did Lisa go? We lost Lisa. Good morning.
Good morning.
Okay.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
I have not appeared before you yet, and certainly not in person.
Yeah.
We're good on the computer. Are people like set up, doing what they gotta do? How do I know that?
Okay, so anyone else virtually
Wait,
joining
let's pull
in?
the case.
Oh,
Hold on.
I'm sorry. I didn't even call. I thought I was late. I apologize.
No, I was waiting for your presence.
Thank you.
See you. Item number 26, 2023, 26 BZ, 3002 Farragut Road, Brooklyn. Okay, so who's,
Alonzo.
you have Alonzo and who else?
Barbara.
Barbara, what is
Christina.
Christina? Okay, so those are 3?
Four.
That virtual. And
No,
then,
no, those are 3 virtual, then you have you and,
If you got 4 virtual.
and come on up if you're testifying. Come up to the front row, guys.
no, just,
Yeah.
I'm just gonna swear you all in. You
Kevin
can,
Alonzo,
and then you can go back to your
She
seats.
stands over there. She's just, it's a formality, you know.
I
it's
need
like
to
court.
swear everyone in who's gonna testify.
It's like when you get married, you know.
If you're part of the team, if you're a neighbor, you don't have to be sworn in, but you're part of the
Who are
team,
the other team members?
okay? Is
virtually?
everybody, no, they're not.
Barbara.
My partner.
Christine is not there yet.
Alonzo.
Kevin Williams, Alonzo, can you unmute?
Christine, Emily.
Christina, I need your camera on. Everybody ready? You there? I don't see her.
There we go.
You got her? Okay, everybody raise their hand, right hands. Okay, do you affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in your testimony before this board and to respond honestly to board member questions?
We do.
Yes.
I do.
Okay, please state your name for the record and proceed to respond to the board's comments at review session.
Thank you, Ms.
I just want to make sure, commissioners who are joining in virtually, you can see the applicant and the, okay, all right.
So Alonzo, you sharing the screen?
He will when.
Oh, okay.
When
we
directed.
finish? Okay,
Yeah, just give me the cue.
okay.
Okay. All right, go ahead, Mr. Palatnik.
Well, thank you very much, Madam Chair. It's nice to see everybody. We felt as if ever there was an appropriate time to forget that COVID stopped us all from seeing each other. This application might be a good one. So it's nice to be here in person. We're sorry for any logistical difficulty for people with the connections on everything. We heard your review session, and we understand clearly what your views are and what the views of the remainder of the board are. And we greatly appreciate your diligence in looking at it, and we certainly appreciate your opinions. We happen to agree with many of your opinions, and we'd like to discuss that with you. But we also happen to think that you may be not as well educated on our application, and that's our fault, as we would like you to be, because we think if you knew what we knew, you might see a bit of a different path on things than we are seeing, because we did not just bring the application willy-nilly. We did think a lot about it, and you've contributed a lot of great thoughts to it. So, Alonzo, if you could share the screen. I don't know where Alonzo went. I don't see him. There he is. And Alonzo, that's great.
We see it.
Great. And Alonzo, you can just go right to page 2. That's a good place to start. This is great. I think that's the best part about COVID has been that at least we have digital now and we can just go right to things, and it's a good hybrid. Okay, so we heard what you were saying, and the crux of the application that's in front of you is just so we could factually clarify things that might not have been clear in the statement. That's my fault. I wrote the statement. It was my statement. I thought I tried to explain things very clearly with Elise. We did it together, and but I did a lot of work on it, and I'm sorry if it was not clear. The top picture represents the building that already exists. That's the yellow building. It's an Article 28 medical facility. It is basically a hospital. It is regulated by New York State government. It is funded with funding from New York State government and the federal government. Anna, who is here in the red dress behind me, is going to be, or the red top, I should say, no dress, is going to be speaking in a few minutes. She's the administrator. So she's going to be able to give you anything that I mess up as far as the factual data. She's going to correct me. And I do apologize if I misspeak, but I think I'm pretty accurate. An Article 28 building was created, buildings have proliferated in the last decade or so in New York City. For those of us that have been in the city and the state for the past 20 years, we know that 15 years ago, all the hospitals were deregulated. They were basically banished. We watched St. Vincent's become condominiums. We watched St. John's and Queens become condominiums. We watched hospitals all around the city become housing and no more hospital. We watched urgent care take over, private urgent care. During COVID, we all waited on lines. I bet all of you, like me, waited at private places to get our medical care. Article 28 has been created by the state to basically fill that shortfall. It services, Article 28 specifically, this building, 90% Medicare and Medicaid patients, I should say. Only 10% are private. The reason for that is because the state wants to encourage medical institutions in communities that are, by the demographic data collected by the state and the census data, are designated lower income communities, to create health and resource opportunities for the betterment of society in these communities. So the building at top was built under an Article 28. The people that come there are people that are coming for ambulatory service care as well as primary health care under the name ASCH or ASH and Be Well. It opened about 15 years ago. Burgeoning unbelievably. Why? There's nothing else in this area of Brooklyn. I don't even know if there's anything else in Brooklyn. Most of the medical care, if this wasn't here, that these patients are receiving.
Sorry, Mr. Platt, we're having a bit of a hard time hearing on the recording. It's a little muffled.
Oh, I don't know why that would be.
Standing right by the mic.
That would be technical people, not me. I don't know if there's a technical component, but maybe Carla. You can't hear it all. Can you not hear it all?
Yeah, you're just a little muffled, Mr. Paladnik. I don't know if maybe just stepping like a couple inches back might help.
I took the thing off, and how about this? Does that help?
Or the master? Yeah, Mr. Paladnik, hold on 1 second, okay?
No, it sounds all right to me. I don't know.
All the way down. Oh, really?
Maybe that the mic's not linking into the digital.
Yeah. No, this, and this I can't. That's going to say those two things. Could be.
Test. Is it working better?
Sounds better on this end.
Can the cyber world hear me okay? Test. Staten Island's a great
Can
photo.
everyone hear Mr. Paladnik a little clearer?
For the Staten Island commissioners, go Staten Island.
It's a little better now.
Okay, if it's not, please stop me and I'll try to do whatever I can do. So the point simply that I was making is that the existing building that you see at the top left is a victim of its own success, and it's required to be in this location. It's funded by the state and the federal government, and the people that run it are in the room today, and they're not doctors. And that's the whole guise of the program, is that doctors are very good at being doctors. They're not good at being business people. So the state has authorized business people to step in the place of a hospital and stand in the shoes of a hospital and act and walk and talk like a hospital, but yet they're not a hospital. And that's part of the nexus of the application. So the existing building that's up top that you see was built in an pure R6 district. And just for any confusion on parking, the R6 doesn't have a stringent parking requirement, and the owner was able to waive out as a right of the Department of Buildings. But we do recognize that there's too much parking going on the street. But the parking that's going on the sidewalks, as Commissioner Yoon noted, and as Commissioner Chair Shonda noted, and the parking that's going on the sidewalks is really up. Hold on one second. I'll keep it. Parking that's going on by the sidewalks is primarily the doctors.
Hold on. Hold on.
Test.
Yeah.
You want to put it into that? You want to put it into that plug? No? You don't want to put it into that plug?
Switch the.
Yeah.
Let's try this one.
Somebody thought they were going sailing. You did a good job. Yeah, it's okay. Yeah,
You could like.
7. All right. Oh, that sounds nice. That sounds a little better. Yeah.
Yeah, you know, that does sound good.
No, that
That does
Thank
sound
you.
good.
I don't know if everybody really wants to hear me more clearly, but so the gist of what we've discussing here, just to get my bearings back again, is I just wanted to let you know what an Article 28 building was and what an Article 28 use is and why we're here, because I could see that you might be looking at it from the perspective that a bunch of doctors have gotten together and are asking you for a variance to build a building at this location to have their medical practices. And why can't they just be anywhere in the city? They can't be anywhere in the city. They have to be here, just like the 3 applications that we cited to in the paperwork, which were calendar numbers. What were they? 28913. And a couple of others, 18311. I went through that during the break, and all those applications that we're relying upon at the Cornell Doctrine were really based upon the educational component of these hospitals, whether it be New York Methodist, whether it be Memorial Sloan Kettering, none of which are known as quote unquote schools. Nobody knows Memorial Sloan Kettering as a school, but yet Memorial Sloan Kettering has a teaching component to it. And as you stated in one of your resolutions, your exact language was, it doesn't have to be a teaching college, a teaching hospital. It just has to have that component that's beneficial to the community, because that's the linchpin of what Cornell is all about. Now, when your board resolutions, and I read them all during the break there, when you do speak about the not-for-profit status, you're speaking about it to the extent that A, there is a program to the building, and B, that they don't need to provide a hardship finding. And that's pretty much the extent of the not-for-profit discussion in every single resolution that we cited. Most of the discussion is focused upon the programmatic needs of the healthcare institution, of its beneficial nature in the community, and the balancing act of that and their educational component. And they even go on to say that it doesn't have to be a quote-unquote teaching hospital. Now, what are we setting forth the argument? And we like the ideas that Commissioner Ali Brown and Commissioner, well, I don't know if Commissioner Shavetta had it, but I heard Commissioner Ali Brown speak about bifurcating, and that's where I'm going to go with everything here. And I like the ideas of providing more parking off-site or on-site to alleviate some of the concern. We talked about at the break. We're going to do that. So we heard every single thing that you're all suggesting. And I understand conceptually the problem you have with granting a variance to the entire building and proportionalizing it, as Commissioner Yoon said, and I think a bunch of the commissioners made. And we understand that. We understand that there's a special permit that's available. The special permit is mashugana on its face without any
I don't know what that
variance.
word means.
Mashugana is Yiddish for crazy. And the reason why the special permit is crazy is because even with the special permit, if we built the building to the size we're trying to do, we'd be at 23 or 24 required parking spaces. On a 4,000 square foot lot, we'd be building a building that would primarily service the parking for a use that is servicing 90% Medicare and Medicaid patients, most of whom live in the immediate area, which is why we have to be located here to begin with and are not driving. 7% are driving, and the 7% is primarily of people that are having surgical procedures and need to be picked up. There's not a lot of people driving here, and there is parking in the area, although you do have to drive around the block 7 or 8 times to get a spot. There is on-street parking. So where we're going with this, where I'm going with this, was I'd like to respond to the board's concerns, and then I'd like to have Anna come up and speak for a few minutes, is that we have listened to what you said during review session. I think that we could provide a bifurcated plan just to start that discussion, whereby a portion of the building, we provide on site 15, 16, 17 spaces, which we've looked at during the break that we could do if we lower floors and raise floor heights. And we do that, we can get a decent amount of parking and stackers, as Madam Chair had said. And that could address really the portion of the building that some may say, and I'm just speaking out loud, I imagine if you'll allow us to continue on this application, we'll play this out further. But that would be the quote unquote non-programmatic portion of the application. It's the straight medical or whatever term we want to give to it. But there is a component that is highly educational. The young woman that's in the back right there is a nurse practitioner. And Madam Chair, you were so funny during the review set, you don't even know it, because I channeled you before. I said to her, and she's going to tell you exactly what I said. Everybody in this room thinks this is a bullshit internship program like I did during law school to get a job with the law department. And you show up and you do something that looks good on your resume. This young lady's here to testify to you, along with Anna, about the rigorous nature of the academic program that's been put in place with the 3 different institutions, which include SUNY Downstate, which make no mistake about the fact why SUNY Downstate is front and center. They're located in immediate proximity to this facility. They have a tremendous direct working relationship with the facility, both with medical patients as well as with students. And they're under a contract. And the contract, I know you suggested it was only a year, and that's my fault. I didn't make it clear. It's a constantly recurring contract that could be canceled for cause. So it is a long-term contract with the intention of it being a very extreme long-term duration. And to that extent, we are willing, if your board keeps listening to us, we're willing to tie this entire anything you get to the actual users occupying the building, so that this is not benefiting some future user in the future. They are in this, the 2 gentlemen that are here and Anna are the principals in it. They are in this for the long term. They have no intention in their lifetime of moving out of this building or selling it or transferring it, primarily because an Article 28 licensed facility has to be at this location. They don't have a choice. And they're the guys that are licensed. They can't just go transfer it. So if you decide one day you don't want to be chair and I decide I don't want to be a lawyer, becoming Article 28 people. We can't do it. We have to get approved by the state. So there's a lot that ties this all up. And I hope my introduction took some of the confusion that might have been in any of the paperwork out of it, and at least gave you a clearer understanding of it. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have of me, but I think you'd probably learn a lot more if it's okay to have Anna speak for a few minutes to you and just talk about the educational component and the programming of it, if that would be okay for you.
Yeah, I would suggest, commissioners, you all hold your questions. Let's hear the presentation, complete presentation, and keep note of the questions that you want to ask, and we can ask that at the end.
Thank you.
To make the, I think the discussion go easier. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Please state your name for the record. Good morning.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Anna Golden, and I'm the administrator for both for Be Well Primary Healthcare Center and Gold Step Ambulatory Surgery Center. Both facilities are New York State Department of Health licensed facilities under Article 28 of New York State Public Health Law. What that means is we have the exact same license as any hospital in the city and the state. So what is the difference? The difference is in the number of services that are listed on the operating certificate. We don't have an emergency room. We don't have inpatient department, but we provide the same outpatient services that any hospital in New York City and New York State is providing. So if you walk into SUNY Downstate, you will see the exact same operating certificate as is hanging in Be Well and Gold Step. Just to give you an idea of how Be Well grew within the past 20 years is the first week that we were open, we saw 20 patients, primary care and GYN. In 2023, we saw over 70,000, we performed over 70,000 visits. We have 25,000 active patients at Be Well, and we provide services in 23 different specialties. We're ultimately a one-stop shop for an entire family. We provide services from pediatrics to geriatrics to dermatology, dentistry, physical therapy, you name it, we have it. We have the specialties where the patients, if they were to call SUNY Downstate, they would have to wait 5-6 months for an appointment to see an ENT or a dermatology, whereas in our center, we are able to provide those appointments within 1 to 2 week time, which significantly improves the health outcomes of our patients. We are growing, we are expanding. However, since 2014, we haven't added a single square meter of space to the programs, and there is a tremendous need. As Mr. Palatnik stated, we're located in the area which HRSA designated as a health shortage area. So it's the federal government that designates different areas. So before the application goes in front of the Department of Health for review, we have to show that there is a health shortage of providers in the area, and that the majority, 60% of the patients residing in the area heavily rely on state and federal programs like Medicaid and Medicare. These are patients that unfortunately oftentimes do not have access to high quality care elsewhere just because the privately owned practice does not accept the insurance, or because the hospital has a tremendous wait, and that prolongs the diagnosis and the treatment that is so vital to the health outcomes of the members of our community. We've been in our community for 20 years. I'm very proud to say that. We've been a vital organization to the health outcomes of our community. And the fact that we don't advertise anywhere, but we continue to grow, is a huge testament to the quality of the services that we provide as a healthcare facility. We have doctors who travel from the city, from Long Island, from all over the New York State to see the patients and to provide services to the community that needs it the most. Yes. So I think, this is, so you have an idea of what an Article 28 is. I just wanted to add the Gold Step Ambulatory Surgery Center is not only licensed by the New York State Department of Health, it's also federally accredited facility through Quad A. This is an organization that ensures that the facility is compliant with all federal rules, laws, and regulations, and is able to see patients insured through the federal programs like Medicare. I also wanted to address the concern that you brought up about the education. So right now, both facilities are contracted with 3 institutions. SUNY Downstate, which is in a close proximity to the both facilities, New York Presbyterian, and St. John's University. These institutions, these teaching hospitals, actually approached our physicians, our facility, to create these contracts that would allow the hospitals to send their residents to community healthcare facilities to actually experience what it is like to treat patients in an ambulatory clinic setting, not in a patient setting. So with SUNY Downstate, we have two extremely successful programs. One is for NP training, and it's not an internship, it's a preceptorship. So the hospital contracts with providers within the clinic. The doctor gets the status of a preceptor, and the medical students come in and they actually actively diagnose and treat patients with the provider in the room. They get firsthand experience to obtain patients' past medical history, surgical history, history with the medications, whatever it is. They actually participate in creating a treatment plan for the patient, and they actively participate in ensuring that the patient receive the health outcomes that they came to receive. The other program that is also extremely successful and actually was brought up by our surgeon, Dr. Alexander Schwartzman, who was the director of the surgery program who's the chief of the surgical program at SUNY Downstate. And he said, listen, I want to teach my students in a setting like yours. So we created a big contract that was drafted with SUNY Downstate legal team and BeWell to bring in surgical residents. So when you said, what is it, like 2-3 residents, the ORs, have the limit. You cannot have 20 people standing in the OR, first of all. Second of all, you want to ensure that every student who is participating, who's going to be performing surgeries, on people later on, actually get the good training. So to ensure the quality of the programs, you cannot have more than two to three students in the OR with the doctor to ensure that they get to experience what is happening, that they get to witness it properly, that they get to ask their questions properly. And the same goes for NP program. The exam room is not, a big auditorium where you can have unlimited number of people. You already have a doctor, you have a medical assistant, and you can actively have 1 to 2. Deborah is actually, one of our success stories. If you don't mind, she'll, talk about it. But I hired Deborah many years ago as a medical assistant for the practice for BeWell. She went to school. She became a registered nurse. She worked as a registered nurse for Gold Step Ambulatory Surgery Center. I hired her. And now, she works in a hospital, and, she decided to pursue an NP degree. And through the program that we have, the educational program that we have with SUNY Downstate, Deborah is now actively, able to train at our facility and to continue to influence in a positive light the health outcomes of the community where she lives in. So if you don't mind, I will let Deborah.
State your name for the record.
My name is Deborah Chapaset. Like Ms. Golden said, I'm currently a registered nurse. I go to SUNY Downstate, where I'm soon to be attending gaining my FNP license. The reason being here today is just to tell you it's a great opportunity to have that in the community. First of all, it's not easy to get a place for a preceptorship, and I was fortunate enough to be placed there by the school.
That's what I mixed up.
Yes, preceptorship. I believe Ms. Golden also mentioned that what we do here, I'll be working hands-on with the doctor. We'll be seeing patient. I see patient. If the doctor sees 20 patient, I'll be next to the doctor, and then she'll be overseeing my work. So I do assessment. I make sure also do work on the diagnosis. Actually, I'll be doing pediatric and OBGYN this semester. So, which is a great opportunity for me.
Explain how this is SUNY Downstate, how your program works, how your internship program works.
Oh, well, exactly like I said before. So it's not that I picked the school myself. It's just like the school placed me at BeWell Primary Health, not knowing that I worked there before, but it was an opportunity. It was close to where I live. So I was fortunate enough to get the placement there. They have a contract with BeWell Primary Health, whereas I have to bring a form in, the doctor has to be licensed. They have to provide all the information that goes through a system for them to verify their license and for the same thing for Be Well as well. So I got both pediatric and OBGYN. So I think it will be a great asset to the community, as this helping me already. And I'm sure this will be helping all the students to come in.
And this is a requirement of the course?
Yes, for the program, it's a 2-year program because I already returned my bachelor's. It's the master's in family nurse practitioner. So we have to do the rotation. So it's 120 hours. So if at pediatric, I'll be putting 120 hours with the physician and 120 hours with OBGYN. So yes.
Well, wish you all the best.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. So I wanted to talk about 2 other programs that we I think are extremely successful. For Be Well, it's the St. John's University. We have a tremendous relationship with them for PA program. One of our neurologists, Dr. David, who used to be chief of neurology department at NYU, he's very passionate about teaching. So he loves having students. He loves sharing the knowledge. And he actually left his job at NYU to stay full-time at Be Well because he says that he sees that the community needs him and needs his services. So, and he's, as I said earlier, he's very passionate about teaching, and this program is extremely successful. We have a waiting list of students waiting to train with Dr. David. And another program for Gold Step that we've seen tremendous successes with podiatry residents. New York Presbyterian Queens Hospital, and Dr. Voloshin, who is the chief of podiatry at New York Presbyterian, he assisted in creating this relationship because he wanted for his residents to train in an ambulatory surgery setting and to see how, simple procedures in the hospital take a lot of time. In an ambulatory surgery setting, it's much easier. It's easier to turn the ORs, and he thinks it's a different experience for his students. So with the proposed site, why we are talking about why it is important and crucial what we proposed at the new site. So at the new site, the 6th floor is designated strictly to educational facilities, and we'll listen to what the community board said. As you mentioned, they talked about high school students. There is Midwood High School, which is several blocks away from Be Well Primary Health Care Center. They have one of the largest MedSci programs in the state. And they are very much interested in having a relationship with where students, high school students, could come in and actually get experience and get a peek in what it is to work in healthcare, and why it is important for them to pursue certain careers. The 5th and the 4th floor would be designated specifically to the SUNY downstate programs because for NP, because these are all primary care specialties. So the 4th and 5th would be for primary care and maternal health. So,
excuse me, Alonzo, this is that slide. Thank you.
So the 5th floor would be the maternal health. These is where women's health nurse practitioners come in to train. This way, Hold on.
Just wait.
Turn on and off. You can turn it on.
Okay, go back on. Go ahead.
Can you hear me? Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So the 5th floor would be strictly for maternal health, where we would be able to.
Please turn it off.
Yes.
Maybe we have to go back to the.
Yeah, we have
Original?
to go back to the other one. Oi.
No, that one's usually here.
But
This one.
But
It's probably been a little cold for a few years.
and the mic also. You're wrong. You're not wrong. Sorry.
Like this. Okay. So because the SUNY Downstate nurse practitioner programs are for nurses in primary care specialties, which is women health, family, geriatric, adult, pediatric. So the 4th and the 5th floor would be designated because we have space constraints right now in the existing building. The 4th and 5th floor of the new building would allow for more nurses to have access to the training. Actually, as we were coming to a meeting, I received another email from SUNY Downstate. They sending another student to us. They're asking if we have the space to accommodate the students. So the expansion would allow us to accommodate
So
more
just so I
students.
understand, the expansion that you're proposing is to just allow for more students to participate and not to fulfill the need of the community?
Absolutely. It's both. It's to fulfill the need of the community because we are outgrowing the space. Absolutely. There is in the community where we are, there is a tremendous need for primary care, specialty care, and surgical care. If you for a simple colonoscopy that saves lives, in the hospital, patients would have to wait over a month to have it done. In our ambulatory surgery center, we're able once again to accommodate sooner. However, the surgery center itself is very small. We have only 2 ORs. So the growth, the 2 additional floors, the 2nd and the 3rd floor, would allow us, first of all, to perform more services, would allow more OR hours, and would allow more residents to come in to train both for general surgery, for podiatry, and in the hospitals have shown interest in other specialties as well. Right now, we're not able to expand due to space limitations, and we are hoping that with the new building and the addition of the floors, we would be able to address that concern as well. So I thank you very much for your time, and if you have any questions for me, I'm here to answer all of them. Thank you.
Thank you for providing a pretty good picture of your existing operation, and I wish you all the success in serving the community.
That's Eric, it's Eric Palatnik again. That concludes our formal presentation. We have obviously other professionals here to talk.
Sure.
Traffic.
I think before we get into any of the nitty-gritty on the technical, I think the big question, the threshold question, is what we need to discuss, and I want the commissioners to just stay focused on that.
Sure.
Based on the presentation, what we have heard, from what I understand, yes, it's not a hospital, but it acts like one. It has all the blessings and the bells and whistles of a hospital in a smaller footprint.
Correct.
Okay. So that's one aspect of it. And then this program is successful. It has a connection with various academic institutions in the neighborhood, where students, the universities have some agreement. Though I need much more clarity on how that is connected, and then they come and attend. As Ms. Golden, right? Am I pronouncing last? Ms. Golden stated that the need for this is not only to this enlargement will allow for more students to be trained, but by and large, this need is being done because there is a need for the community. This area, this existing facility is extremely well run, and when very successful and high demand, there's a greater need for it. So you need more space to run this Article 28 hospital medical type facility. Great. I still see there's a gap from there to the educational component that you have proposed. I still see so you're requesting a parking waiver. How does this parking waiver tie in with the educational deference? How does that parking, your students are, your floor, the area where the students are going to be, it's only going to be one floor. And it's, whether you offer it up to neighborhood students to come and take a peek and all that, that's not part of the education. That's a community.
May I just,
let me finish, please.
Yes, of course.
And so the connection between the waiver that you're asking is, I don't see how that ties to the educational deference. And that is a big leap I'm still failing to see And the presentation, I appreciate the very thorough, detailed analysis Ms. Golden provided and Deborah stated about her coursework, but I don't see the connection. And so far, every case that you have cited, there is a much defined, clearer nexus between the waiver that is being asked and how that serves the greater need of the education services, and that has not been presented. And I think it is not something I want to debate here, because this is something you need to think through and look through your documents and see how you can, if you can make that argument. I do not see that at this point.
Council, I would really like to second this for a moment. I think that this would be best responded.
Sorry, hold on. This is Vice Chair Shibata who is speaking. Yeah.
Sorry about that.
Can you stop screen sharing? Okay, yes.
Council, I really do want to second what the chair said here. I think that this is going to be best served by a submission, a very well thought out reasoned submission as to this very specific question, because this is the threshold question, and I think it's going to be the largest hurdle for this application.
Yeah. Go ahead. Do any of the commissioners want to say anything, or should I let Mr. Platnick continue on this basic question? Okay, Mr. Platnick.
Okay, so I agree that I see it's a threshold question, and we're in complete agreement. We thank you for giving us the chance to explain it to you, even though you've given us your thoughts on it. One thing I would like to call out was simply the conversation that Commissioner Otley Brown brought up at the beginning with a bifurcated review, and maybe that will help in your analysis of it, because that's where we intend to take, or I intend to take, our next submission. I see that you're struggling somewhat with granting a variance to the entire property, and I see you're struggling with finding the nexus to it. Okay, you mentioned there's only one floor of educational. That alone should show you, in and of itself, that there is a direct relationship between this building and education, because one floor is for education. It even says it on it, and we have contracts to go along with it, and we've got students that are there, so we got to, right? That's a fair statement, right? One floor is education?
Even if it was one floor, I mean, again, I'm taking your word for it. I'm not saying I'm there. You're saying it's one.
I understand. Okay. Hypothetically speaking.
One floor for 2 to 3 students, 2 times a day or 2 times a week or something like that. It's a weak one.
I could flush. I understand my weak
one. And when you compare it to all the other examples you have cited, you know, it's a very weak one.
It might.
And Mr. Platnick, you will appreciate it, because you're at the other end representing cases where we need to have a very tight and very clear connection, because otherwise it is open to a lot of room.
I understand, and I am working with you here. I'm trying to see what you're saying and bring it back in a way that might work, and we'll do it more in our paperwork. But the basic gist I just want to discuss while we have a couple of minutes to talk about it is, first of all, there is that one floor that's educational. Now, even if I would say it's an educational from my perspective. Even if one person would say, though, that's a small amount, 2 to 3 students. If you proportionally take the space that we're talking about, 3,700 square feet, and you proportion it to NYU and the monsters of medicine out there, I don't think our proportional ratio of educational services to the overall size of the facility is going to be much different. And I'm saying that on the balls of my feet right now, having not researched it, but we're going to go back and find out exactly how big each of these buildings are, and then try and show you that NYU, for their millions and millions of square feet, is only applying the same amount of ratio as we're applying in this very small building. And the other thing I'll just say to the whole idea is, as they testified to up here, everybody spoke to, the very same students that are in that educational setting under a contract with these 3 institutions, which we've said to you does exist, and we're going to try to flesh it out. All of them operate within the building itself. The students are in a living, breathing, working classroom environment in the building. So we're going to try to position the application for you to show the bifurcated idea, to respect the idea you're saying that the whole use is not worthy of a variance. But we would very much like to pursue this threshold issue that you're calling out, and try and play out that.
Sorry.
I'm done. I apologize.
Okay, Commissioner Otley Brown had her hand up before I could ask a question. Go ahead, Commissioner Otley Brown.
So the issue and the reason why I brought up the idea of the bifurcation is because with a for-profit project, there are competing interests. And it's hard to tease out which of the competing interests is best served by the variance that you're asking for. And so that's why that was the board's answer in Sheriff Israel when they requested the bifurcation of the analysis, was to try and tease out any personal or private interest in the size and scope of the variance from that not-for-profit, more pure in the community's best interest argument that Cornell deference looks for. And so that's why I suggested it. But I just want to make one statement in rebuttal to what you just stated as to the other cases that you cited and the proportionality. I sat for almost all of those cases that were brought before us, and those cases spoke to a very large program direction that many hospitals and hospitals/medical institutions were taking at the time, which they're still taking, which is the whole translational research model of both practicing medicine, conducting research, and educating future medical students, and the need for very large and uninterrupted floor plates in order to accomplish that. And so there was a very clear nexus between the programmatic need of the institutions as well as the variances and waivers requested. And so I don't think you should minimize that in your analysis of how you feel that this was just an economy of scale kind of situation,
Right.
where those were large.
That's a fair point.
It was a very well-defined program that they were talking about and that they have put into place.
And if I
that's
can,
all of those institutions. It was Mount Sinai, it was Memorial Sloan Kettering, it was NYU, it was the Brooklyn site as well. They all were relying on that translational medicine project and program.
and that's a fair point. And I don't know what translational medicine is, but I got a feeling I'm about to start to learn a little bit about it. And thank you for educating me about it. But to the same extent, the space constraints that you just started testifying to with the operating room and the limiting size of it for this purpose, would that not equate to that same need in your mind?
No, actually, it's not necessarily that it doesn't equate. It's that you've got other issues going on that could be affecting the size of this project, in addition to that need for a larger operating room.
Understood.
And if you look further into the program of translational research, it was all based on the fact that you need the lab co-located with the clinical portion of the institution, so that any research developments that occur in the lab can be immediately brought to the clinical floor to serve the patients. And in reverse, the clinical patients could be brought into the research because they're co-located. So it was kind of a back and forth. And in order to do that, you needed critical adjacencies that are necessitated by large, uninterrupted floor plates. So you had Sloan Kettering, you had Mount Sinai talking about how they needed to maximize their lot size, maximize the building on the lot size without any setbacks, so that they could provide these very large floor plates that were designed and constructed in such a way that the labs were located on the same floor as the clinical offices for each particular specialty.
And you're educating me. I didn't know any of this. And I don't view that as a rebuttal so much, but as you're speaking, I'm analogizing it to this building, which is on a smaller scale, doing the same thing. It's putting an educational floor in the middle of the building on the fourth floor, so that you could go between. But I know I'm debating it. Let me put it into.
I think it's one of those things. Please, Chair.
Go ahead, Vice Chair.
I think it's if you see that analogy, I think it's best that you put it into paper and really flush that out for us, because we want to see. You would have to show how this program details a much greater impact And the other cases that you cited show like a history of like well, for lack of a better word, a programmatic needs of these students becoming part of this institution. And while I understand you're saying you're making the comparison of size, it's also a comparison of how much work is actually happening and what these students are achieving and what their program is like. That needs to be flushed out a great deal.
We appreciate it. I got the gist of everything. You've all given a lot of very valuable input. I don't know if Commissioner Sheta or Commissioner Yoon.
I want to add something. I think I've been wanting to say this is, from the presentation, what I gather is there, like you said, there's a bifurcation of the hospital facility and the school facility. The need for this expansion is primarily being driven by the demand for the services that this particular facility is providing, and you need therefore greater space. That's the only thing. The fact that you have that facility and you have a program that is associated with a education facility with whom you have the tie-in for various kinds of training, what is it called? Preceptorship programs. It's not the driving part. Preceptorship is not the driving part of this program. So far, everything that I have heard, and so far all the commissioners are saying, we are not seeing that connection between the preceptorship and the need for this enlargement. The need for this enlargement is primarily being driven by the need for this enlargement because you are running out of space in your existing facility. And in your existing facility to serve this community, you need another similar space in a similarly located HRSA designated area. And this is the place you have two facilities side by side, and you can probably co-share some of your programs and therefore consolidate some of your program services. But the bottom line is you still need those additional operation room. You're not doing this operational room because you want to bring in extra interns. That's not driving the argument. That's where I am having the problem. And I think that's where all the commissioners are having the problem. It's what is the cart? Cart is the need for this operation theater to serve the community.
There's no doubt. You're 1,000% right. That's
So
about that.
then
So it's the extra 2 or 3 floors that we're here
But the extra
talking
2 and 3
about.
floor, if you were saying you need an extra 2 and I'll just say this out loud. If you said, okay, I need this extra 2 floors to accommodate this program that I have, where the students have to come, take notes, review, discuss, post-analytical, all of that. And this is part of the agreement terms and conditions. We have this and we need the space. And oh, by the way, I cannot provide this because I have capped out the floor area or I've capped out the height and therefore I need the height waiver or therefore I need the floor area waiver. But you're not asking for that. What you're asking for a parking waiver, and I'm saying, what is the relationship between the parking waiver and the additional floor that you're providing for the students? I don't get that.
Elise has a comment to make.
So I think when we were
Okay, let Ms. Polladear finish and then Commissioner Sheta, you can ask your question. Okay.
Sorry,
Go
I
ahead.
just want to specifically speak to what you were saying. So I think we were looking at minimum variance, and it's a weird condition here where we can build 6 floors, but we can't do it because of the parking, and there's nowhere to put the parking. And if we were to put in a ramp, it would take up so much core space that we could only get a few spaces on every floor. So it was doing a parking waiver is the minimum variance. Like because we could ask theoretically for like floor areas, which what we need, but we're capped out because of the parking.
Well,
at 3 floors.
Definitely that your presentation of documents is not provided.
Okay.
And the fact that you have another operation right next to it and there can be co-sharing of services and everything that can take away a lot of your duplication of service spaces can also reduce your need for an additional space, and therefore you can dedicate more space for parking. That's where I am going.
No, you're making good sense and you're giving us a lot of good ideas.
Yeah, sorry, Mr. Platting, let Commissioner Sheta speak and then you can step in. Okay.
I'm done.
All right. Commissioner Sheta.
Thank you, Chair. I want to say that So far, I'm not convinced. I do believe that the argument is not helping. I want to share my screen to be probably more clear. If you look at the proposed plans, this is the proposed cellar. Then this is the proposed ground floor or first floor with only 5 parking spaces. If I move further to the elevation views, I do believe that the currently proposed bulk is not exhausting all the permissible bulk that's available for a community facility. And if you look at the floor area that's proposed, it's about 1,000 square feet short of the maximum permitted. What I want to say is, with some redesign for that building, I probably can think of, and I'm leaving this to the applicant, but I'm trying to like think loudly here. If this first floor is depressed probably 4 or 5 feet in ground, and then the cellar did the same exact thing, and in the meantime the floor height is taken slightly down from almost 12 feet slab to slab, I believe that that reduction in the height plus the depression could be used to heighten the first floor and give a chance to add some stackers to enable the use of stackers. So that would increase the number of spaces available on the first floor. In the meantime, I would think of considering that whole first floor for just dedicating the first floor for parking. I do believe if these two steps are taken, the number of spaces on the first floor could be significantly increased. I don't see this application going anywhere with the current argument. I believe they need to consider providing some parking on this lot, period. Thank you.
We agree. It's a great idea. During the break, we talked about that exact idea, and you've just repeated it, and we concur.
I didn't talk about it during the break. You probably.
No, we did. Our team did.
Mr.
Our team
Chutney.
talked about the same idea, and that's a good idea with the to add the parking at the ground floor.
Yeah, with 5 feet depression for the first floor, you don't need like that kind of like big deal of a ramp. And in the meantime, I know the area. It could enable like excavating deeper. Groundwater is not shallow, so you can push the cellar down a little.
Yeah, a little bit. This, just so you know, Commissioner, the subway is on the street in front, so that is a small
I
limitation.
just want to thank you, Commissioner Shetta. I think that's a solution to provide more parking, but I still do not see the connection between that and the educational difference, and why therefore a special permit cannot be considered instead of a variance. So I really think I'm failing to see how the bifurcation would be applied. I really think the simple, clean method on this one is a special permit for the parking. I really appreciate.
I know, I appreciate what you're saying. I like
really
it.
do appreciate every effort that you're putting in to make that connection. And you know, in your next submission, go through that. But honestly speaking, from what I'm hearing, I'm going to have a lot of.
I know,
difficulty.
and I appreciate your empathy and your transparency. I have some ideas, and I'm not going to hide the idea. The idea is very straightforward. You want to see more of a relationship. We do have students in both buildings, and we have students that are on waiting lists, and we could show you in much greater detail.
How is that going to push the argument for a parking waiver? The students.
Well, it doesn't necessarily need to. We could talk about what we're waiving. We could figure out on our side how we're presenting to you what we're waiving.
Yeah,
and what we're not waiving.
I think
we've talked about. I know, but we've talked about setbacks on our side as well. Eugene has spoken about setbacks. There are limitations. The building is set back at the third floor, above the third floor. Maybe if we play with some of the setbacks, we change the request from a parking waiver to a setback waiver or a height waiver. There may be ways to make it directly related to the educational component. Maybe not, but I appreciate you giving us a chance to try to do it.
Commissioner Young.
Architecturally speaking or programmatically speaking, it is unclear to me right now if you had no educational component, how the floor plans would actually substantively change.
Right.
In a way, it's hard for me to understand because you have these double use spaces, classrooms as conference rooms. Manager offices are also on the 6th floor. There's only for managing the educational program, or there's actually used by other people. I imagine the days of the week the students are not there, the space will also have a use. So that's where you start to, in the
yeah, I see that.
I
That's
don't
what,
understand how there's any spatial allocation dedicated solely. I mean, you're providing practical on-the-job training because it's a functioning place. It provides services. So anyway, I'll stop with that. I also want to
I
add, you
appreciate the
mentioned
thoughts.
that the illegal parking can be managed.
yeah.
So in submission, it would be great if you could tell us why it's not being managed at the existing facility and how you would propose to manage it.
I will.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and I hate to put it this way that, given the existing problem that you have with your current facility, with your parking, it's not helping you in your argument.
Oh, I know that.
And
know that.
if you're going to propose anything that is going to work,
It's going to solve
to
both problems.
both. It has to-
That's part of what I'm going to try to come back to you with, and maybe you'll see something that you didn't see this time. And I thank you all very much for giving us the time.
it was good. Go ahead.
I just wanted to note for the board that NSC 2 36441,
All right.
ZR 36441, joint facilities and shared facilities permits NSC 2 specifically. Required accessory off-street parking spaces may be provided in facilities designed to serve jointly 2 or more buildings or zoning lots, provided that. And there are some requirements, the number of spaces. Basically, it can be provided within 600 feet of the zoning lot.
Right.
So that's the other thing that you need to look at. I mean, I think it's very clear from the site visits that Commissioner Yoon has made and from what I've seen on Google Street View and the information provided, there is a need for parking. Whether you're providing that parking for your patient, I understand that you may not need, the demand may not be there, but there is a demand for parking for your staff and doctors. And I'm assuming the doctors, again, that's another part of the program you need to clarify. The doctors are not only affiliated with this facility. They're coming from other facilities and they come in on days they want to.
That I
Doing it.
don't know the question. Anna, to the doctors, they only work here, or they work at they probably work in a multitude.
Gonna respond.
And imagine most doctors work in a multitude.
Pull
So
it down.
So yeah, the most of the doctors, they work at different facilities
Most-
and they come in at
most
different
of-
times.
Yes.
And oftentimes, so therefore they're driving from place A to B, and that's where your parking demand is. And that analysis is failing. The analysis primarily looked at the patient
The patient.
of inflow and outflow. Your demand is really coming from your staff and the doctors. And that analysis is lacking in the parking, and that will determine your demand and supply. And I can understand why the doctors who are coming in from Long Island and want to park because they have an appointment for an operation and they cannot find, they immediately just park on the sidewalk. But you need to provide that service for them to find a parking where they do not have to be a nuisance to the community. And by the way, as part of the deference, it has to be for public safety and well-being. And if this is the kind of parking that is being provided by the existing facility, the deference question is very much put to doubt. Okay, so
Thank you.
yeah, she figured it out.
You're good.
She is good. So I think those are the questions we are raising. So when applying it, we are going to scrutinize it from all
You've been
aspects.
crystal clear. You've been
Yeah.
very fair, clear, transparent in all of your thoughts. We appreciate you all for spending the time, and those that came in for tempting the weather that they say is. gonna
Yes, and
storm.
yeah, I want to make sure you all go home safely and not get stranded.
Thank you very much for a pleasant hearing, even though it wasn't what we wanted to hear, but we'll do our best to come back to you.
Well, I appreciate your bringing your.
Are we open to the
explaining
public?
this. Yeah. We are going to open it up to public, so just hold on. We have a public part of it. Yes.
So the case we're currently discussing is 2023-26 BZ 3002 Farragut Road, Brooklyn. Should you wish to discuss, please dial 646-518-9805 or our toll-free number, which is 888-475-4499. At the prompt, you will enter the webinar ID number 871-3545-8687 and press the pound sign. At the prompt after that, you'll press the pound sign only. Once you're permitted in, you'll press *9 to raise your hand, *6 to unmute if you're calling in on the phone. And if you're in the Zoom room already, please raise your Zoom hand, which is the little hand at the bottom of your computer screen. Once you are recognized, you will have 3 minutes in which to discuss.
Okay, this is where I get to ask you how much time you need to submit. And take as much time as you want, because this is, I know it's important to you and we want you to make the right effort, but think through what we have stated.
3 months to submit? I feel like I'm on the Price is Right.
3 months.
3 months?
Okay.
Let's just do it without going over.
And
That's
thank you.
April?
Please think through what we have stated.
We will.
We don't want you to fail, but we want you to address the concern and figure out a way that will address the concern.
And yes, Ms. Matias, if we could submit at the end of March, that would be fine.
The thing is, I mean, I don't know about your holidays, but for the April 15th, 16th
Yeah,
hearing, it will be
March
March 28th. Will be the submission
Can we
date.
talk after the hearing?
Yeah,
just so
I
we can
would
check the
say-
calendars and see when the holidays are, because that's right in the middle of.
Yeah, that's what I
Yeah.
was just saying. That's what I was just thinking.
So if that's okay with you, we'll come back with some dates.
Yeah, you can talk to Jeff.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thanks for having us in person. It's nice to
Yes,
be here.
it was nice to have
Not yet.
this
A real-
discussion
a
in
real
person.
discussion. Thank
Yeah.
16
thank you.
minutes, 16 seconds.
Thank you, team, for coming.
It's good to see you, Eric and Lisa, in person. 9 seconds,
Okay.
7, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, stop.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank
Yeah, we're
you.
not close. Thank you.
Have a
Yes,
good day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Safe trip home. Okay. So this concludes our public hearing for January 9th, 2024. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Thank you.
140 hours.